Did you see the stylish kid?
Welcome to the Young IPA podcast. I'm James. This is Pete.
G'day, everyone.
It is May the 29th. It is episode 166. Really fun Friday show. I do love a good Friday show.
Yeah.
And this is a good one. So we've got the quiz and we've got the draft. They're back this week. We're still in our homes, which is, bad news for my back, but good news for the vibes. It is the Schlichts. So people who, long-time listeners to the show, know the Schlichts well. Adam and Mia, two of our colleagues here at the IPA. We're going to do the quiz, and then we've got the draft of famous siblings in history. So a bit of fun on that with a lot of music selections.
That's right. And we reignite that fierce sibling rivalry that exists between Mia and Adam. And it takes it to a new level. So, stay tuned for all that.
Yes. Now, big story in the world this week is basically Trump versus Twitter that we're going to get into. And I got to say, first up, I am so happy to be leading off a show not talking about coronavirus restrictions. Long time coming, and it does make me feel a whole lot better about the world.
Yeah. I mean, look, you'd prefer it to be that all tax everywhere was abolished or something like that. But,
yes.
Whatever.
One day. So, yeah, Trump versus Twitter. To give people the full story, because it kind of went by very quickly. So Trump on Tuesday tweets out, there is no way, brackets 0, just in case there was any confusion what no way meant. There is no way, 0, that mail-in ballots will be anything less than substantially fraudulent. Mailboxes will be robbed, ballots will be forged, and even illegally printed out and fraudulently signed. The governor of California is sending ballots to millions of people, anyone living in the state. So he's going on this whole rant about mail-in ballots. Now, usually these things just pass by, but Twitter puts a fact check on Trump's tweet. So now when you load up Trump's tweet on mail-in ballots, there's a blue exclamation mark and it says, "Get the facts about mail-in ballots here." First time Twitter's ever done anything like this, and it's pretty extraordinary. Just on any politician. It's first time, that's what Trump's saying, is that no politician's ever been treated like this. It's an extraordinary move. We're going to get into a whole lot of things, and it's going to sound like I might be taking Twitter's side. I want to say that is out of control behavior from Twitter to go, you know what, we're going to fact check the president of the United States. That's how big we think we are, rather than just, leave it up to people.
Exactly right. And they not only just put that little blue exclamation mark for the fact check thing, they gave you a link to click on, which was through to CNN and New York Times articles. That was some kind of neutral purveyor of the truth. Yeah,
exactly. So, and then just there's this implicit suggestion that if something is fact checked, then what is being fact checked is inherently false. So Twitter's saying, look, don't even click this link if you don't want to, just so you know, we think this is false, or even this is false. So Donald Trump, not one to take things lying down like this, then goes on another Twitter storm saying Twitter is now interfering in the 2020 presidential election. They're saying my statement on mail-in ballots, which will lead to massive corruption and fraud, is incorrect. Based on fact-checking by fake news CNN and the Amazon Washington Post, Twitter is completely stifling free speech, and I, as president, will not allow it to happen. Now, there was a lot of umming and ahhing about what exactly Trump means by, as president, I will not allow it to happen. So overnight, he has signed an executive order, which basically looks at Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Now, I won't get into the ins and outs of what this means, but it's basically the overarching idea is that Twitter is treated in legal terms like it's a platform. They're not responsible. No. So legal at the moment is that it's a platform. You can say it is a publisher. You can say they're working like a publisher.
Sorry,
but in the legal eyes of the USA, it's a platform. They are not legally responsible for what third parties like Trump or I don't know, who's been banned recently, the Farrakhan or some Krasenstein brothers, my favorite people. Twitter's not legally viable for what they post. And that gives them special protections that, say, the Washington Post don't have or that Fox News don't have. So when they start acting like a publisher, and again, when the Twitter fact checks the president of the United States, that's pure publisher action. That's not a neutral platform kind of idea. The idea comes, do they surrender their ability to be treated like legally distinct as platforms? And that's the debate.
Yep.
So what do we reckon? I've got a whole lot of points about this. This is the kind of stuff I could legitimately talk about all day. I find it so interesting. So I guess question for Pete. Should tech companies be responsible for what is posted on their sites?
Well, obviously not, because that what you're referring to there is called Section 230, and it was often referred to as 26 words that created the internet, and it was put in back in the 90s. And that means, so like you or I or any crazy person out there, not that we're crazy people, but crazy people out there.
I'm a little off.
Yeah. Volt's a little off. But, if a tech company is responsible for what any random person says on their platform, then obviously they're going to have to, the way Facebook as we know it, Twitter as we know it, and any other platform as we know it is going to completely change because they can't afford to get sued for something that some wacko says on social media. So I don't think that this is a great move. It completely disturbs the open internet that, for all its faults, is still a good thing that I like and want to keep that way. What I enjoy most about this story is this image of these people sitting around in Twitter's head offices going, how can we manipulate the 2020 election and convince people in flyover states whose towns have been destroyed by the opioid crisis and, jobs going to China? How can we get them to not vote for Trump? I know. Let's link to CNN. They must have ever heard of CNN before, because if they had have heard of CNN, they would have read it and never voted Trump in the first place. So this is not achieving what you think it's going to achieve, Twitter. This is achieving the very opposite. It's making people more likely to vote for Trump. That was my favourite takeout. But I don't agree with his executive order at all. And I don't think there's lots of concerns about whether or not it's even constitutional. So I don't know how far it's going to get, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll go what I take away from this, and then I think we should, just because, look, there's a lot of wide opinions about this whole thing. Even in, the IPA today, there's been a few ideas being batted around about it. So we should at least, devil's advocate some of the stuff, so it's not just us in lockstep. But yeah, my point, when has the government ever legislated speech to make it, and the end result was that it was more fair? It was just better for everyone. Everyone can just look back at the government getting involved on free speech and going well, that was good. That was really good. So I don't see why this would be any different.
Yeah, exactly right. And, you're completely correct. And then what if Trump loses or eventually he's not going to be president? Eventually you'll have someone like Kamala, I'm going to say a name wrong, but Kamala Harris, AOC might never make it to the White House, to be honest. But
I don't know about that. If Bernie can get that far, if Bernie can get that far, AOC can.
But then she's in charge of what's on Twitter, and it's don't know about that.
Exactly. So, look, these tech companies like Twitter and YouTube, I'm not going to say they don't have a left-wing bias. I mean, you just see the people that are getting banned and then Twitter fact-checking the Trump. There is clear a left-wing bias against conservatives on these platforms. But then, if you take away their protections, you've got to remember that, because they're left-wing bias, that's going to also affect how they interpret laws that you bring in. So if Twitter is now responsible for what's posted on Twitter, and they're already left-wing at the top anyway, what exactly are the opinions that they think are going to get them sued? And it's not going to be Trump lied about mail-in ballots. It's going to be opinions like Barack Obama was a bad president, or that Joe Biden, and there's going to be a lot of things written about Joe Biden that are probably going to get silenced. These are the opinions that get silenced, and those are conservative opinions. I think this will lead to more restrictions on what conservatives say on social media rather than less. Conservatives have used social media to get millions of followers. When you think about Ben Shapiro or, friend of the show, not a conservative, but Dave Rubin. These are people that can only achieve what they have through social media. So to say that conservatives can't use social media now is wrong, and to say that conservatives would be better off under more laws is also wrong.
I think that's a really good point. I'd really question this idea that conservatives have been... conservatives are definitely, the social media companies are biased against conservatives, but conservatives have been able to advance ideas on social media, and classical liberals and libertarians, that they wouldn't have been able to advance with anywhere near the same influence if it was just a cable television setup or a network setup. Would Trump even be president without social media?
I want to jump on that. That is just such a good point, because one of Trump's tweets when he does his tirades about Twitter trying to interfere with the election, which again, Twitter is trying to interfere with people's perceptions of Trump. I'm not saying they're not, but Trump goes, they tried it in 2016. They're going to try it again in 2020. Now, what happened in 2016? Trump won, and Trump won off the back of using Facebook and Twitter to reach people in ways that no one had ever been able to do before. And I mean, he was giving stump speeches that were getting watched by hundreds of thousands of people. Like, without social media, that's just not a thing. And people would have just got spoon-fed the takes on Trump through traditional media outlets. Like, Trump won an election getting around traditional media, and now he's pushing us to go straight back to the way things were. Not a good idea.
Yeah, like, I mean, there would still be social media, but they'd be far more risk averse. And some of the more out there stuff that Trump tweeted, they might have said, no, that's not going up. And that's some of the stuff that got him elected. And I reckon the dial's moved a little bit on political correctness, you know, in the last few years. It is easier to question political correctness orthodoxy, and partly that's because of people saying stuff on social media in an open, free social media that we wouldn't necessarily have prior to that. But yeah, no, so that's the main thing about that. I would actually point out, I did want to make a quick point that as kind of a token gesture of balance, Twitter also, because, you know, all sorts of people are on Twitter, right? And they get to say whatever they want. No one fact checks them. Now, there was what's his name? The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, Lijian Zhao, who had tweeted, it might be the US Army who brought the epidemic to Wuhan. Now, he tweeted that like a couple of months ago. And is it some kind of token measure of balance this week? Twitter fact-checked that. So, you know, it just goes to show that it was perfectly fine for them. Their first priority was to make sure that, you know, the American president didn't make a point about a domestic issue rather than the Chinese government just making stuff up about a global pandemic. So that's evidence of how left-wing they are.
So we are in pretty much lockstep on this, and I understand that we'd have a lot of viewers right now that have different opinions. So let's play devil's advocate here. Pete, there are tech giants now with more say over what the open window or what polite society can say online. There are social media giants with more power now than any newspaper publisher in human history. Like, you think once you're off Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, you can't really reach new people in different in ways that, like, you know, you think about newspaper tycoons of old. Twitter can now silence people more than newspaper tycoons of old can. So therefore, Twitter, we need to take an extra long look at what that bias then does to a society. So what would you say to those people concerned about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but, you know, the technology changes over time, and if you don't like Twitter, then it's, you know, it's time to create a new social media platform, or maybe whatever comes next after social media platforms. And I would, as I say, I think social media has been better for the conservative movement than, like, as much as it is biased against them and people get shadow banned like that, it still has allowed the expansion of the conservative movement in a way that would never have been possible. The other thing I was going to say was I get what people say when they say, so one of the arguments is, oh, you know, they're a publisher. If they're not being neutral, they're a publisher rather than just a neutral platform. That's one of the key arguments of people who are in favour of the executive order.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's just like a matter of, people can see what Twitter are doing. And as you say, like, Trump's fans are looking at this and they're as fired up about this as they've been on any issue recently. So there is clearly a market. If people go, you know, to hell with Twitter, we're not getting what we want a different place. Like, you're telling me there's not enough tech billionaires that would value making a quick buck over maybe their political beliefs and set up the conservative Twitter?
Yeah, exactly.
Or like Trump just does it himself. Like, hey, this is my new social media account. If you want to follow me and not get fact-checked by Twitter, this is where to follow me. I mean, and think what that would do to Twitter. The second Trump, like, there's this idea that, like, Twitter needs Trump and Trump needs Twitter. Yes. So if Trump leaves, you know, my bat, my ball, I'm going home. Twitter dies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we saw Jordan Peterson was creating his own social media platform before he became ill. And
yeah.
If I could allay the concerns of Trump fans, don't worry about this. This is better for Trump. This is a golden issue for Trump, right? He can say, you know, Twitter's victimizing me. He's victimizing all of us. You know, he gets to talk, you know, he gets to play up to that victimhood element of it. You know, this is nothing but an election. Like, Joe Biden will be like, oh my God, why did you do this? This is nothing better than to convince more people that...
Well, he doesn't know what Twitter is, let's be honest. Once someone explains to him what Twitter is, he'll be going, that was probably a bad idea.
Don't worry, Trump fans is my...
Few other aspects of this story we haven't touched on yet is, so Twitter's head of integrity like this went a bit viral. The person responsible for the site's integrity, his tweets made the rounds to just show how biased Twitter was. His name's Yoel Roth. Here are some of the best ones. I'm just saying we fly over those states that voted for a racist tangerine for no reason. For a reason, we fly over them. Another one, yes, that person in the pink hat is clearly a bigger threat to your brand of feminism than actual Nazis in the White House. And today on Meet the Press, we're speaking with Joseph Goebbels about the first 100 days. What I hear whenever Kellyanne is on a news show, being Kellyanne Conway, a counsel to President Trump. So, like, to have that guy responsible for the head of site integrity and to trust that he can like park his political beliefs to one side when they're that fiery and go, you know what, I'm treating every case on case by case basis about integrity, a stretch. And I'm not, and again, I'm not disagreeing that Twitter has a left-wing bias. I'm just saying that more regulation on speech isn't the way to go. And then I'm hemorrhaging battery here, so this might be an interesting rest of the show. And then the other one was YouTube deleting anti-China comments. So The Verge revealed that as early as October 2019, if you typed in Chinese symbols, Communist Bandit or 50 Cent Party, the comments would then delete themselves off YouTube in 15 seconds. So you can say YouTube standing up for truth to Trump, but the second China says get rid of those comments, they automate it.
It's completely telling how much more these people are concerned by Trump than, you know, the Chinese Communist Party. So it's a completely warped set of priorities.
All right, so we've gone about 17 minutes on that one. So let's move on to Hong Kong, Pete.
Well, yeah. So this is real repression. Chinese National Party Congress broke out in applause in Beijing's Great Hall this week after voting the draft decision that paves the way for sweeping anti-sedition laws to be directly enacted in Hong Kong. So we talked about this on Tuesday. They were proposed laws that were coming in and were going to be voted on Thursday in Beijing. And obviously they have been voted on. That National People's Congress is just a rubber stamp. So these are now laws. They are any acts or activities that endanger China's national security, including separatism, subversion and terrorism. Charges that are often used in mainland China to silence dissidents and other political opponents. So those things will now be illegal in Hong Kong, as they have been illegal in China for decades. It basically means also that the Chinese Communist Party can set up their agencies in Hong Kong and effectively shut down the pro-democracy protests that are happening in Hong Kong, harass people, arrest people. It basically, according to a lot of people, makes Hong Kong China. In fact, the United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has notified the US Congress that the Trump administration no longer regards Hong Kong as autonomous from mainland China. So they're just one and the same now, according to the Americans, according to the Trump administration. And they've lost their preferential trade and financial status, which is part of the reason why they're economically successful. But that's secondary. The main thing is the fact that they've lost their rights that they've had for decades, that they were meant to keep under the Sino-British agreement in 1997, and they're gone. It's an incredibly sad thing to happen and a terrible thing to happen, that a free people could lose their rights like that. They've obviously been losing them for a while, but now they've really lost them. So yeah, pretty terrible stuff, really.
I have nothing more to add than I'm sad. And also, if you missed it, we did talk about this sort of stuff with Greg Sheridan on Tuesday's show. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that interview yet, we get some really in-depth stuff about China's relationship with the world. There's some stuff about Hong Kong, because I'm still a bit misty-eyed. I do think that Hong Kong has the potential to be China's Chernobyl moment of when the regime starts tumbling down, and Greg Sheridan talks a bit more about that. Last thing we got before we get into the likes and dislikes. So Peter Ridd, most important academic freedom case in our lifetime. We're going to be talking to Gideon Rosner on next week's show about what he saw this week. But if IPA has been doing a whole lot of work on it. We've got 2 videos on our social media channels, just Evan and Gideon talking through what they saw, what the case is. The decision itself is a few months away, but you can just go to our social media pages, go to ipa.org.au. You can get a whole bunch of analysis if you do want to read up more on Peter Reid, because it is so very important to the future of academic freedom and scientific inquiry in Australia.
I just bring up the most damning thing I found in that? Sorry to jump in there, but the Heretic podcast uncovered that, and I just discovered this week as I was working my way through it, that the 10 universities have tried to remove academic freedom provisions from their enterprise bargaining agreements. So that's pretty extraordinary. 10 universities have just on the sly tried to get rid of academic freedom. So check it out yourself if you haven't already, is what I'm saying.
Yes. Well, collegiality is the pathway to truth. That's always been the case. You run through history. Likes and dislikes. So we do the heroes and villains on Tuesdays. Today is about likes and dislikes. Pete, what are you liking this week?
Well, mate, this week, and oh no, I don't need to grab my phone. That's all right. This week, well, last night, the NRL was back, so a lot of my, Generation Liberty mates who are on the old social media were tweeting and writing on Facebook about the NRL was back. The Brisbane
That was very up to date and current of you to call it the old social media.
The old socials. Brisbane Broncos 6, Parramatta Eels 34. So Parramatta went up to Brisbane and got the job done. I don't know anything about NRL. I thought Brisbane were really good, but obviously Para too good on this occasion. A few messages on the chain last night, which is my mates lads chat re the NRL. Obviously, massive Victorian. I am a Victorian, and all my mates are Victorian, obviously, that are on this chat. My brother goes, I've missed live sports so desperately that I'm considering watching NRL tonight. Frida, long-time listener of the show, says, don't do it, Pat. Another friend called Molly, who listens sometimes, goes, geez, NRL stinks. Really trying here, but it sucks. And me, NRL is the best TV sport in the world, is such a bonehead Sydney talking point. So, it wasn't that popular that last night on the chain, but in general, it's great that it was back.
A fascinating look into Peter Gregory's inner circle. We're all the richer for it.
We tried, but we just, we tried.
Right. My like this week is just basically the vibe. I'm liking the vibe around Australia.
Dennis
Denudo. It is, but that is the like. So we have the National Cabinet meeting. I think it's currently happening while we do the show. And the leaks that are coming out of here's what's going to be announced in the National Cabinet meeting is basically the federal government's going to put more pressure on states to open up restrictions, especially on borders. Now, I'm not saying it's floating through too quickly. I mean, today is the talk in Victoria about Daniel Andrews handing out on-the-spot fines to businesses that have the ability to work from home but choose not to do so. So that's still concerning. But I like now that this week is now the pressure is on governments to ease restrictions in line with each other rather than suppress people's freedoms in line with each other. Every time the government says, this is our restriction, it's not, okay, good, that's going to keep us safe. It's always okay, how do you prove that this keeps us safe at the cost of the Australian economy? So I like that vibe. There's more pressure on governments to justify things.
We're on the downhill slope. At the start it was like states were racing each other to go up. Now they're racing each other to go down. Although not really Queensland, but anyway.
Well, Victoria's still the biggest holdout, so we can't throw too many barbs. Now, Pete, dislikes.
Do you reckon? So you're still Vic's worse than Queensland?
Mate, they're handing out on-the-spot fines if you go to work.
Are they doing that in Queensland?
Well, that's the big story this week. On-the-spot fines if you choose to go to somewhere that's not your living room to do an honest day's work.
An honest day's work. Yeah, all right, fair enough. But Queensland's getting there. That's all I'm saying. All right, so my dislike was almost my like until politics took place. More than four. So Gladys Berejiklian, the Premier of New South Wales, said she was going to have a pay freeze on public sector employees. They get a 2.5% pay rise each year. However, under the wage freeze policy, she said that salaries will remain unchanged for 12 months. This would save $3 billion, would affect 400,000 public sector workers. Not that we want public servants to earn less money or anything like that, but at a time where the private sector is getting absolutely hammered, it makes sense that the public sector could at least take a very small sliver of the burden because, James, we're all in this together. But what happened yesterday, Arvo, was that the government met with the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party to persuade them to support the wages policy. But it is understood that was not successful. It's not over yet. They could appeal to the government, that is, could appeal to the New South Wales Industrial Relations Commission or introduce measures such as legislation instead of regulation. But that's a dislike because it was a good thing that was going to happen. But then the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers gave it the old kibosh. So there's probably a few New South Wales supporters of the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party listening to the podcast.
Well, they tuned out when you started smashing the NRL.
No, I mean, I love the NRL. I love that it was back. So write into your local member and tell them, come on, mate, we need to save $3 billion.
Yeah, very good one. Okay, so my dislike this week, basically the people of Victoria. Now, we just talked about how Daniel Andrews was handing out on-the-spot fines. Again, I'm trying to bring back our New South Wales listeners, so I'm just my dislike this week is the people of Victoria. Now, here's the stat for you. So Victorians have been fined for breaking coronavirus rules at almost triple the rate of any other state or territory, with almost 6,000 people receiving a $1,600 penalty since COVID restrictions were imposed. So here's the breakdown state by state. So it's 5,957 from Victoria. Then it's 2,069 in Queensland, 1,290 in New South Wales, and no one else above 300. Now, Victoria had the most heavy restrictions, so that might be part of it. And they also, had a lot of police officers looking at restrictions. But a lot of that is Victorians getting on the blower, talking to their cops, dobbing in their neighbours, dobbing in businesses, and that just does not sit well with me, Pete. I don't like living in a nation in a state of snitches. It's
real. When you told me that, I was really disappointed in Victorians. It was really shameful. It was a blow to my Victorian ego that's like that. Stop dobbing on your mates.
Yes, I want to give a shout out to Tasmania and ACT for having absolutely no fines for breaking coronavirus restrictions. I don't know if that's just they haven't been reported yet. I think ACT can be explained by they're such public servants that it does not compute with them to even suggest flouting restrictions. Yeah, but Tasmania, good on you.
Yeah, ACT would definitely be like public servants. We've all got to do this. They would never have met anyone who works in a small business. So
if you even suggested catching up for a dinner party of 3 people, they would have burned you for witchcraft.
Yeah, so no credit for them. But yeah, okay, well, good stuff.
Right, that is, yep, good. So let us now go to the quiz. Okay, we now have another round of the Young IPA quiz. We have the Schlicht siblings. Nearly said brothers, I didn't. Schlicht siblings, Adam and Mia, welcome back.
G'day, thanks for having us.
Now, last time you guys were on, Mia then ratted you out and said it got a bit contentious in the house last time the Schlicht siblings took each other on. So, Mia, I don't want to throw you under the bus here, but I'm going to. So, Mia said that you were grumpy and not happy with the loss for the rest of the day. Would you like to address these allegations?
Yeah. I'm a really gracious loser. And I think what we've proved is Mia's not a gracious winner. She won, and then also on top of that, decided to go behind my back and diss me. So I don't think she's doing any favors for her own reputation here.
Do you deny? Because she said that at the dinner table there's a bit of stony silence. Do you deny that?
No, I deny the allegations.
Man,
this is always chipper at the dinner table.
So, Mia, what do you say to that?
Well, I agree completely. I'm not at all a gracious winner, not in the slightest. But also, Adam is not a gracious loser. And that has been proven time and time again in our board games during isolation. He always is the first one.
I just don't like board games, all right? They're not fun. They're not fun games.
He's always like, I gotta go. I'm just leaving, and storms off.
Board games are overrated.
Yeah, they are. I'm with you. And card games.
Yeah. I'm all about articulate. So we've got a pretty good vibe of contentiousness and bitterness already. Pete, do you want to throw any elbows yourself, just so it's it's all on the line?
Look, I'm not naturally a bitter and resentful person, James, but yeah, look, I mean, I just think that I'm going to win. So that's adding to the contentiousness from my end.
I reckon you could have gone a bit harder. Now, there's a few things we need to address at the start of the show. So first up, apologies for getting the Who Am I last week. Bad sign by me. I will get better. Second thing I need to address is some controversy. And I don't want to say that the quiz integrity is threatened because it didn't exist in the first place. But I, this morning, wrote out the quiz. And then in my head, I sent it to myself so I could get it on my laptop so we could do the quiz. And I accidentally sent it to a group chat that Peter is a member of. So...
Really?
Okay, good. If he didn't see it.
Really?
Is this on?
No, that was a real. I've taken it down. I'm not that stupid.
What group chat was it? Just the one.
It was you, me, and producer Mitch. So Well, you didn't get there in time. So, well, I'm just going to be slightly suspicious if Pete rattles off the first 4 answers with no
Yeah, I don't believe
problems.
Pete at all.
I have my finger on the pulse of current affairs in this country and around the world. It will be no surprise if I
But
get every
not
question.
your Slack, apparently.
Yeah,
Too busy looking at real headlines.
yeah, that's right.
All right, let's get into the shall we? So we got 9 questions, 1 point for correct answers, 1 point off for incorrect answers. Got a who am I at the end, and the buzzers thing is vital in the Zoom quiz format. So make sure your buzzers, which are your first names, get said early. All right, which country is set to open its borders to Australians before the state of Queensland?
What was that? Sorry.
Which country is set to open borders to Australia? Adam.
New Zealand.
It is New Zealand. 1 point for Adam.
New Zealand. There you go. I had to pretend not to get that one, otherwise you'd think I saw
Yeah.
the question. But I did know that.
Good transparency, Pete. Now, question 2. Which university sent home 24 of its students for breaking social distancing this week?
Do not know.
Mia.
Melbourne Uni.
That is correct.
The Schlicks
I'm
are off
saying-
to a flyer.
I didn't think Melbourne Uni was open. I didn't think there were any students there.
Yeah, but they got the college, so the college kicked them out. 24 of them. What I like
breaking-
is I really like saying Melbourne University because it's technically the University of Melbourne, which is what someone that goes to the University of Melbourne and is really proud of it will tell you. So it's always just a good way to just slightly get under someone's skin, just to say Melbourne University. So
You got them, James. They're reeling
Yeah.
after that. You know.
Well, Mia brought it up. All right. Now, how many fines have been handed down in Victoria since social distancing restrictions were imposed closest to the pin?
Well, roof seal.
Favourite.
Well, it's closer to the pin, but I don't need these guys. Don't need to bother because it's 6,000.
It is correct. You weren't getting much closer than that.
It's
Exactly. Exactly 6,000?
It was like 5,997. I don't have the exact number in front of me, so closest to the pin. The integrity's falling apart. Look,
I was going to guess 5,999, you know?
He would have as well because
I
he's
was
a
going to guess
snake.
5997. So
That's my tactic.
These two
Because-
snakes would have actually done that, like in their defense.
I've done it before
Yeah, it's
in
a
a quiz.
no, the Schlicht tactic is to get one answer right at the start and then go silent. So now that they both have a point, it's about to get very quiet up in here, I reckon.
So you paid?
Now, according to IPA research, what is the, okay, so there's the real unemployment rate that gets said. Now, according to IPA research, what is the revised unemployment rate after taking into account people working 0 hours who don't meet unemployment criteria? Again, not the most fun question, but something that people should know just so we're all on the same page about what we're up
important
against.
question.
Adam.
Bit of a stab. 17.5.
Is
Does
it
anyone else?
closer
Let's
to the
go
pin? This
closer to
one?
the pin. Let's
Yes,
go closer
good.
to the pin after.
You go, Mia.
no, after you.
Well, I was going to say it's 9.5%, James.
Interesting. And then Mia.
I'm going to say 13.5.
And wait, what was your guess, Adam? 17.5.
17.5.
Okay, I'm not very good at maths, but Mia gets it because it's 15%. So only 1.5
I don't know where I
right.
saw that.
All right.
You should be a politician, Mia. You can
I
you
should.
just go climb the ranks with this. You know.
All right. Now, the JobKeeper and JobSeeker stimulus packages, we found out that JobKeeper, we budgeted a bit more than was actually needed. How much was the figure off by? Roof.
60 billion.
That is bang on the money. No need for closest to the pin. Sorry. Okay, quick score check. We got Pete on 2. We got Mia on 2. We got Adam on 1. This is so much better than last week. Last week, I've got to say, that was interesting. Like, it was fun. And thank you to Renee and Julia for coming on. But that was an interesting quiz for people getting the right answers.
Sometimes
all right.
a really low standard game can be the most interesting game. You know, two bottom
I-
teams fighting it out.
I'm sure that's what you tell yourself a lot. Now, why was Elon Musk forced by a Californian law to change the name of his baby? Which was like, I should know how to pronounce this by now because I keep making fun of it, but it's like the XAE-A12.
X-Ash.
What did you say, Mia?
No, that's just the kid's name is X-Ash.
X-Ash,
go,
that's the
James.
one. Sorry, why was Elon Musk forced by Californian law to change that baby's name?
Well, I'll have a stab at this, James, because
Go ahead.
I think I can probably get this right without really knowing. And that would be that certain places in the world have rules around parents giving their kids weird names, and California is one of them.
I needed something a bit more specific. Like, what was the law? Because the question
is it
basically
child
was, no, it's not child abuse.
Do you know in some countries they actually have lists of names that you have to, like, authorized names that you have to give them? I think New Zealand has that actually. Like New Zealand, you know.
I think this has been repealed, but in France you used to only be able to give your kids the names of saints or something like that. Anyway,
so that's not related to. Well, it might be related, but I think because. Yeah, I don't know. Is it hard for, like, you know, if the kid gets pulled over by the police, the police don't know what their name is if they look at their license or something? I don't know, Jim.
It must only consist of alphabetic characters, so you can't have the number 12 in a name, which is why the name was changed. Now, next question: how did they solve this?
What'd you say?
How
Sorry.
did they solve it?
Did
Yes.
they just take Mia? Did they just take off the 12?
They did not just take off the 12.
Adam, I'm going to stab in the dark.
Yep.
They just spelt it out.
You're close, but it's not the right answer. We're getting closer. We're warmer.
Oh, I reckon I know, but I don't know if I want to go. Are you allowed to go again, or are you out?
You are, but you will risk another point loss.
Oh, wait.
I don't know.
All right. No one knows? All right. Mia, I reckon do it.
All
Are
right,
you not going to say it?
I'm going to say Roman numerals.
That is correct. It is Roman numerals.
There you go.
Good recovery from me there. Good recovery.
Very, very, very good. All right. Which famous sports tournament announced it is going ahead with fans in attendance this year? This week. Roof.
We actually talked about this, so I'm at a bit of an advantage, but the French Open.
Yes. And I cannot wait. It's just like we've already talked about this in the show, so I won't go over things, but the level of positivity about sports coming back makes me so happy. Now, back to Elon Musk. So the launch of SpaceX was delayed this week. Why?
Jeez, what are Elon Musk?
Mia.
Because there was bad weather. I think specifically there was lightning or something.
Well, I'll give it to you. So that is correct. How annoyed do you reckon Elon Musk is that he can't control the weather? Like, he spent the rest of that day going, come on, there's got to be some machine I can invent.
I follow Bridget Feddesy's Twitter account as well, James, and if you keep stealing gags off her Twitter account, I'm going to tell her.
Yes. Damn it. All right, sorry. Coming into the Who Am I, we got Pete on 3, we got Mia on 3, we got Adam on 0. Everyone can still win. And Here we go. I'm going to drop the like, I died this many years ago, because I'm not good at maths and I usually just think I get it wrong. So I'm just going to say this instead. I died on this day in 1431.
That is
for
better.
5 points.
Because the first thing you do is work it out, and it's just a waste of time.
And then I'm just sitting here going, like, I reckon I got that wrong.
Died in 1431.
Yeah.
What's the score? I guess we're all about equal.
3 for Pete, 3 for Mia, 0 for Adam. So Adam, it's all on you for the next 2.
Some more equal than others, as they say in Animal Farm. Good point. Literature reference.
Yep.
I don't know, James, the answer to this question.
Flex on him, Pete. Anyone want to take a stab for the... All right, so for 4 points. Adam, your last chance to take the clear win. I was 19 years old.
1431, did you say?
1431, 19 years old.
Ooh. So he or she has had a big impact in 19 short years.
Yes. Feel old yet? No, I think Mia's still got time to overtake it. But it's long gone for Pete and I.
Yeah. But, you don't want to peak too early. I don't know who this is.
So, Adam, do you want to take the stab for the undisputed victory?
No, I'm out. I got no idea.
All right, fair enough.
You can still win on a penalty shootout.
For 3 points, it was a French soldier.
A French soldier? 1431?
Yep, 19 years old.
Oh, French soldier. Who's that? Yeah, no, I don't know.
It'd give it away if I said it.
I think I'm going to sit on the fence.
Sit on the fence?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I reckon I've got
Adam? Go for it, mate, because if you don't get it...
I got no idea. I'm bad at the Who Am I. I've never even guessed Who Am I.
I think you got one once. No, I reckon you got one once.
Let's say I did.
Just say, Zidane.
Zinedine Zidane.
Or, yeah. No, so, okay, well, Adam's out. That's unlucky for Adam. Be a frosty dinner table tonight. But anyway.
Okay, so for 2 points, this surely will give it away. I was burned at the stake by the English.
I know who it is. Mia knows. She knows.
Mia.
What's that? Oh,
Mia.
I was meant to start Googling it. That's cheating.
Joan of Arc.
It is correct. Mia gets it. Mia wins a quiz.
It was on the tip of my tongue.
I
Pete
cannot wait
falls
for dinner
apart.
tonight. Cannot wait.
I'm not home tonight. It's all right.
Yeah.
Other plans.
Adam's out. Get out of
Yeah,
there.
very quickly made other plans. All right, cool. Thank you to Adam and Mia. We've got more show for you coming up after this, and then Adam and Mia are going to join us later in the show because we're going to draft siblings in history. Sorry, Pete, that is a very late loss for a quiz. I always hate to see someone go down in the Who Am I section. So close yet so far.
Yeah, look, that's all right. Mia plays it pretty hard, so she deserves the win. I did note it was the first time you've chosen a woman as a Who Am I, so it's good that you are...
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I will not have my honour besmirched on this very podcast with those kind of flippant remarks with no basis.
Well, the thing is, they have a 100% basis, but that's all right.
All right, speaking of flippant remarks with no basis, let's get into some more stories and our analysis of them. Pete, we've got Pete's Not Fine Worldwide.
We thought we'd dust off an old segment, which has been out for a few weeks. Pete's Not Fine Worldwide. Who's Mr. Worldwide? Is that
That's Pitbull.
Bulldog? I said Bulldog. Pitbull. Anyway, let's
Mr.
get into it.
305.
Oh no. Japanese theme parks have asked people going to the theme parks not to scream. So among the recommendations, thrill seekers will be asked to wear masks, fair enough. Refrain from vocalising loudly whilst on roller coasters, James. Ghosts lurking in haunted house should maintain a healthy distance from their victims. And those dressed up as stuffed animal mascots and superheroes should not shake hands or high five. Also, and they specifically mentioned this, superheroes engaged in fights to the death with evil villains should also avoid whipping up support from spectators to avoid screams. So they're very serious about that, Japan. They've had a really great record with coronavirus. You know, I'm not saying they're wrong here, but there you go. No screaming at Japanese theme parks.
If Japan can get supervillains to respect social distancing, that nation has come a long way since the last Godzilla attack. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, they should have just asked. They should have just, told them there was a hygiene threat.
Yeah,
I'm not that
exactly.
familiar with Godzilla, so you're going to have to carry this bit.
How am I not surprised? I also noticed from the article that those clowns with the rotating heads, you put ping pong balls inside and then you get a prize. They're still allowed to have open mouths the entire time. So again, it's just in regulations. It's all about who you know.
Can you
Those
do
clowns
that
are connected. No.
I really enjoyed that. It was one of my favourite ever podcast moments. But for those listening, Bolt did the clown, like he showed. Oh no!
There it is.
So jump on YouTube if you want to see Bolt being a clown.
Yeah, I didn't see that the ghosts were asked to socially distance. I'm pretty concerned that coronavirus has been found to have human to supernatural being transmission. So that's a bit concerning if we think we're winning the fight against coronavirus. I thought also these places could downgrade any haunted houses to just slightly unsettling houses, just to avoid screams. If
they're keeping like 1.5 meters and they're not going to do anything to you, then you can't really call it haunted.
Yeah.
So
I had about 45 other jokes, but I'm going to move on to a different story because none of them are as good as I think they are. Now that I look at them in cold light of day.
You say the bit that's meant to remain in your head out loud.
That's called a podcast.
Oh God!
The ones I said, I'll defend the ones I said, but the other ones I'm like, that's it. I could save that. All right, last story I want to talk about, and it's a sad one. So if everyone just wants to bring down the energy a little bit, North Korea, the North Korean state media has admitted that Kim Il-sung did not have the power to teleport. I don't know if we want to give people the opportunity now to call a loved one and just recalibrate their opinions. I know that's a huge betrayal. But Kim Il-sung, who ruled North Korea from 1948 to 1994, in the official North Korean paper Rodong Shinmun, there is an article called The Secret to Teleportation, and it has revealed that Kim Il-sung did not, as was once propagated, use a magical skill of teleportation to lead his guerrilla forces to victory against the Japanese. I don't know. If you can't trust North Korean state media, who can you?
In this crazy day and age, where's the bloody Twitter fact check on that,
Yeah.
I want to see some of that.
Know. All right. Now, Pete, you had an idea with this story that I liked.
Well, what I think we should talk about is that headlines that will appear in the Australian media in 60 years' time. So this was a legend that went around in the 1940s, what James is talking about. Let's run through some headlines we think will occur in the Australian media in 60 years' time. Do you want to kick off or do you want me to kick off? I've got 3.
Happy either way.
How many have you got?
I've got 3.
You go first.
All right. Well, first one's an obvious one. I reckon in 60 years' time, the Australian media is going to admit that Tim Pallas and Dan Andrews did not know better than every other leader that signed up to a Belt and Road initiative.
Oh, bang.
I think they have always been like, these are the guys that can get a deal done, and they'll have to admit, actually, no, that was not the case.
Yep. All right, I'll go now. Woke hashtags did not make you a good person.
Oh dear. That'd be very damaging. I've got articles that are basically, why isn't the mainstream media talking about insert topic here? But when those articles appear in the mainstream media, those do actually prove that the mainstream media is talking about a topic.
Gee, that's a pretty catchy headline.
Both sides do it. Like, why isn't mainstream media talking about this thing?
Yeah.
Mainstream media is talking about this thing. Like, you're currently talking about this thing.
Yeah, okay. That one needs a bit of work, mate. It needs to be like 6 words. Australia's not all horrendous racists after all.
I think in 60 years' time, they'll still be pushing that one.
Potentially.
Only stop beating a dead horse when you admit that it's dead. And I don't think the Australian media is going to admit that anytime soon.
Yeah.
Last one. I didn't know we were doing actual headlines. I thought it was just like the media just admitting to things. So public outrage stories that rely on 4 tweets with 10 likes don't actually reflect the public's mood about a particular topic. Like this week, there was a pretty good example with the Jimmy Fallon blackface scandal. I know the news.com.au headline on it basically featured 7 tweets about it. Now, 2 of them were very popular, and I'm not defending the sketch by any means, but the other 5 tweets that they said, showed public outrage at what Jimmy Fallon did had 10 likes between them. And that's not a lot.
The worst at those these days is the footy media. They'll be like, fans, reacted. There's a fan backlash to some comment some journo made, and it was, 2 tweets.
Yeah, not a backlash.
So,
that's too
not
big.
a backlash.
My
final one.
Get Twitter on those.
Yeah, where's that? Yeah, I wouldn't mind them fact-checking backlashes. Anyway, my final one, and I'm surprised it's still there, is the government can't really change the climate.
Again, they are still going to be pushing that for 60 years' time.
No, they won't. That's my thing. In 60 years, we'll be like, do you remember when we were young, everyone used to think that, climate change, blah, blah, blah.
The climate does change, mate.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I'm saying, they'll just find a new way to push for their policies. That's the thing.
Nah,
there's a reason global warming became climate change. It's because you can do whatever you want and you can still push the same policies.
But there's stuff that we look back on now that we go, can you believe everyone used to think this, like back in the 1920s or whatever?
Yeah, but people still believe in the population bomb.
Yeah, well, I guess we're just both providing examples of our arguments.
Yes. Almost like a debate. Interesting.
But I think mine will be one of those, people used to, I can't think of an example which is harming me, but people used to think that, I don't know, X, Y, Z. People used to think the king was...
Global cooling.
I'm trying to move away from the climate as an example.
Oh, okay.
People used to think that the king was chosen by God. Now, Morgan Beck still thinks that.
You're falling back on the divine right of kings.
That's what I'm going with. And now everyone says, I can't believe people think that.
All right. No, that's fair. Few people believe in the divine right of kings anymore, especially now that the North Korean leader can't teleport. There's even less evidence to suggest that there is a divine right of kings. All right,
not the best example.
That is it for the show this week, unless, Pete, you want to scramble for another couple of seconds?
Nah, that's all right. That'll do.
All
Let's put him out of misery.
That is it for the show this week. Thank you to... Oh, no, wait, we've got the draft coming up. Okay, at the end of the show, we love to do a draft, and this week, with the Schlicht siblings on, we thought, why don't we look at famous siblings in history, draft those, what is the best, who can create the greatest mass of family members, I guess. So, draft order is going to be decided by the quiz, so Mia's got first pick, then Pete, then Adam, and then I have got the 4th pick, so... Hey, Adam, don't sulk. I've got the 4th, all right? We're all in this together. I'm pretty happy with my list, got to say, early on. So, Mia, who is the greatest pair of siblings of all time in your mind?
Just before we do this, before Mia jumps in, can I please clarify, so do these people become your friends, or do you get to spend time with them, or How does...
No, I think that's just like recognition of greatness. Just, the best siblings of all time. They can be your friends, and I'm sure like endear yourself to them by making them your greatest of all time. But I don't think it's like the dinner party we did the other week.
Okay. Noted.
I'm sure they want to be your friends though, Pete, if they watch.
Yeah. They don't know what comes with that though. Heavy lies the crown. Heavy lies the crown of Peter's friend. All right, Mia, greatest sibling of all time. Hit us with it.
Well, just before this started, Adam specifically requested that I didn't pick a certain sibling, and I was gonna do it just to annoy him, but I figured after his loss, I'd give him a break. So I won't do it this time, Adam. But my pick for the greatest siblings, I'm gonna go with the classic Australian family, the Hemsworths.
Strong pick.
Yeah, like there's an easygoing family, very down to earth. I like them because they're big Hollywood names at the moment, but they don't try. They're not like the other celebrities who are trying to push their political views on you or their climate change views or anything like that. They've got their house in Byron. They go out surfing. And that's
I
it.
don't know why you're not mentioning as well. Mia and I, our mum used to babysit the Hemsworth brothers, and so we technically met them when we were born. They came and visited us, both of us.
Well, technically.
At the same time, obviously. But when we were born, they came and visited the hospital and picked us up. So Thor has picked us up.
Yeah. And on top of that, Liam's Hemsworth was my first kiss.
Really?
Whoa!
No,
This is a yip-ap scoop like none other.
no, I'm going to say favourite Australian family right there.
Stop the draft. Mia's won. How does anyone come back from
See
that?
you guys next week. That is a massive victory. Out of curiosity, what were the siblings that you were not going to pick because Adam wouldn't like that? Or
I'll leave it to...
No,
is that going to come up later in the show? Okay, fair enough. Yeah, all right. That is an extraordinary pick, and what a story. All right, Pete, try and follow that.
When we do the graphic on social media, we have to put in brackets.
First
kiss. Yeah. Okay. That's really not the animal I was trying. Okay, so mine, obviously, now everyone knows I've chosen these guys in like 5 of the quizzes, but my favourite band of all time is Oasis, so the Gallagher brothers, despite the dysfunction that comes along with it.
No one saw that coming.
Yeah, greatest rock band of all time. Couldn't have done it without Noel, couldn't have done it without Liam.
They're also the worst siblings ever because they broke up the band. They had potentially the best band in history, and they broke it up.
Yeah, I take your point, Adam, but I think that's part of their, the destructive energy that drove all those hits had to burn out at some point, potentially. But, I take your point. They were crap. I mean, by then they'd really dropped off a bit, to be fair.
Yeah.
They weren't pumping
No
out,
diamonds
so.
without pressure. You need the angst.
Yeah, Bolt's big on that. That's why
I'm big on that.
angsty.
Yes, I lean into it. Now, Adam, your pick.
Well, I actually had the Gallagher brothers in my list, and
Oh.
I just presumed I was just not gonna I don't have any spares because I didn't think anyone would choose mine. So I'm down to two
You
at the
didn't think
moment.
Peter Gregory was going to choose the Gallagher brothers? Like, if you
Not
met the
really.
man.
I was only worried about Mia stealing mine, and so anyway, so my number 2, the Jonas Brothers. Mainly because there's a lot of musical siblings, but there's 3 of them. And I only realized about actually last night when we were talking about this, they're actually brothers. They're not just friends that say they're brothers. They're 3 brothers.
That isn't their title though. It is the Jonas
Yeah,
Brothers.
but you can just say you're brothers.
Yeah, the mamas and the papas weren't each other's mothers and fathers. Do you know there's a
See?
4th Jonas brother?
Yeah. And they didn't
Yeah.
let him in the band, apparently.
That's crazy.
That's so mean.
Even
Poor
just
bloke.
give him the tambourine or something. So, is it, just to clarify, is this the one that you told me not to pick?
Yep, I really like the Jonas Brothers.
So you just pulled rank as Big Brother and said, Mia,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to pick this one. That's not how the draft works.
She didn't. She was like, "Who's your top one?" And for some reason, I told her, and then she was like, "I'm going to steal it off you." So it's not like
okay.
she came up with it herself.
It was Mia being a snake as
He
usual.
was being a snake.
Now, Adam is a fan of deep Melbourne indie music. Now, where do the Jonas Brothers fit in the history of deep Melbourne indie music? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I've actually gone out on a bit of a limb here because they're not that deep Melbourne indie, are they? I have
I
a
wouldn't-
few. there were quite a few siblings that, from the deep Melbourne indie scene I thought I could bring up, but I didn't want to be that guy. So I went mainstream. And I like mainstream too. We've got to,
All right, fair enough.
So
people
people Sorry, you go, Bolt up.
I was going to say, people, might not know that Adam is the kind of guy that if he goes to a concert and there's more than 25 other people there, he's walking out.
And it's not
Too
fun.
mainstream.
Too many people know him. And now with coronavirus, you might only be able to go to gigs with 25 people. So I'm the only
You
person
won't be able to tell.
gigs.
Yeah, you won't be able to tell.
For those
do I
that
like
don't
these
know,
guys or not?
For those that don't know, Adam is the lead singer. No, not the lead singer.
No,
he's
not
in
the singer.
SoFox. He's in SoFox, which is a rock band. So just in case you didn't know that, he's a rock star.
Yeah, Pete's obsessed with this.
Well, we've got a lot of new listeners at the moment, so they might not know that they're in the presence of greatness and Adam.
All right, I got two in a row here, so I am going to go. Look, these aren't the best siblings, and I wouldn't say they're my favourite, but I've just got to go impact on world history. Cain and Abel. I mean, pretty big impact, introducing the concept of evil into the world. The first murder, real trailblazers in that area. So I'm going to go Cain and Abel.
They didn't introduce evil. Evil was the serpent. So you're going to go to hell for that.
Well,
but yeah, no, good choice.
I still think first murder's got to give you something. Now, do I want to go history or do I want to go... Okay, my next one, I am going to go the Coen brothers, my favourite filmmakers. Their movies are the best. Everyone should watch them. Fargo, No Country for Old Men, all the others, all the hits. Coen brothers, they're my number 2 pick.
So your sort of 2 picks in, no comedians yet. Are there any comedian siblings?
Not very good ones off the top of my head. I could have just picked Conan O'Brien and just one of his siblings, just so I got Conan O'Brien. But Coen brothers, some of the movies are pretty funny.
Fair enough.
All right,
I'll
back to Adam.
Is it? Wouldn't it be... Oh, no, it's Adam, yeah.
Snake draft. Got lost in the snake.
This one, I'm not sure if this counts or not. So, fantastic band, the White Stripes, Meg White and Jack White. Now, what's weird about them is they told everyone that they were siblings and went public about being siblings. That was their whole thing. But it turns out they're not actually siblings. They're married. Well, they got divorced, but they were married. And they just told everyone they were siblings. But in my mind, they're like honorary siblings. So they're still my pick.
I had them on my short list for the same reason, just the honorary nature. By the way, how
really
weird is
wanted
it
to be siblings?
How weird is it that they got divorced before they became a band? Before they were famous.
I still don't think that's the weirdest thing. I think the weirdest thing is that they were married and then they told everyone they were related. That's got to be weird.
Yeah, that's up there.
Yeah. There's so many things I want to unpack with that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. But you know what? They're okay. Yeah.
They've made your list, so...
Yeah, they're in my list, so good on them.
D Still, one of the great albums of all time. All right, over to the Roof Seal.
Yeah, well, as you people, regular listeners would know, I'm a massive cricket fan. I play cricket, and it would be absolutely remiss of me to not have a little tickle at the War Brothers because naming them on my list might get them to play for my club, the Mighty Deaners. So obviously, people know Mark and Steve, 2 of Australia's greatest ever players. I don't think as people. Like I don't want to say things I'm going to get sued for, but I don't reckon I'd be.
They're
really
not coming to your
mates
cricket club now.
They'll just see the graphic. I don't think they're like the greatest. Mark was a bit prickly. I reckon Steve was a bit prickly as well. But as cricketers, they were fantastic. And the thing about the War Brothers is they've actually got a little brother called Dean War who played a little bit of first-class cricket in New South Wales. So you're getting, and there might even be one other. Anyway, you're getting 3 or 4 cricketers down to the Deaners. We avoided relegation by 0.07% this year. We're going all the way next year. We're going to have 4 wars in the team. Here we come.
I have often said that 2020 was the year of the Deaners. If you had to pick between Mark and Steve, which one would it be?
Well, Mark Waugh had more natural talent, but Steve Waugh had more guts. So Steve Waugh.
There we go.
And was obviously a great skipper. 200 in Kingston, Jamaica. Come on, mate. Told Curtly Ambrose where to go.
I know 4 of those words, and I'm proud of myself. All right, Mia, you've got 2 in a row.
2 in a row. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go along with this musical theme that we've got going. One of the most iconic family bands, I'm going to say, the Jackson 5.
Oh, good pick.
Good one.
Also because, well, our family has 5 siblings as well. So I feel like we are in some way the Jackson 5. We're all very musical. But the one limitation to our band is that everyone plays the same instrument, so which is the saxophone, except for me. So I'll just be Michael Jackson, and then everyone else can play the saxophone.
Hang on,
You just have to be the most talented of them all.
Yeah.
All siblings play the saxophone.
Is it different saxophones, or is it like,
No,
is one the bass and the other
No,
treble?
we all play the tenor saxophone.
Oh.
What brought this about, Adam? Or me?
Well, I think I started playing it first, so they all copied me. I'm the oldest, so
Is that true,
just wanted
Mia?
to be me.
Yeah, no, Adam did start. Adam often started the musical trends, and we all just kind of followed. So that's. But Adam and I did musicals together. We did some guitar performances together. So I reckon our family could do it if we just kind of had some more instruments going on other than saxophone.
What I like about getting the Jackson 5 is that you also get Janet Jackson, who's not a member of the Jackson 5, but in the family. So
Yeah, you can have people sub in.
yes.
And she's pretty famous.
She's probably
Like arguably the second most famous one out of all of them.
I don't
Just
reckon
on
it's an argument. Yeah, I reckon
Yeah,
far and
unarguably.
away. My apologies to Tito Jackson, but I'm sorry, Janet.
She did
numbers.
get caught lip syncing recently though.
Oh, really?
People weren't happy.
Oh, no. All right, and then Mia, your last pick.
That was Bolt's reaction then. Oh, no. All right, last pick.
next one.
Really shook him.
My last pick is, so I think along this thing with, so Adam and I obviously clearly have a bit of a sibling rivalry going on, but at the end of the day, we are quite, we're on the same page a lot of the time. So I'm going to go with Venus and Serena Williams, because they have a huge rivalry on the court, but off the court, they're always like supporting each other. They always say how much they respect each other's game. So, and I think they're just, powerhouse. So I've covered my musical basis, my acting basis, and my sport basis. So my list is perfect.
Well-rounded. Perfect. It's a well-rounded list. Yeah, well, the Williamses would have heaps of money. Do you like tennis?
I used to play tennis. I wasn't good at it.
They've probably got a tennis court that you could practice on. That would be fun.
Yeah, if I'm friends with them, sure.
Yeah.
Pete's very hung up on the idea of being friends with them. Now, Pete, your last pick.
In my mind, I'm now friends with all these people.
Including the War Brothers, who you secretly think are a bit prickly.
Yeah, not secretly anymore, but yeah. So my final pick, I can't decide which direction to take this in. Okay, I've decided my final pick are the Schlichts. So
Pandering. Pandering.
Now, how many of them are? There's like 17 of them, isn't there? How many are there?
It's 5 of us.
5. Okay, they all play the saxophone, which is great.
Except Mia.
Does Mia not play it?
Yeah, Mia's the only one that doesn't.
I'm the lead. I'm the lead in the band because they're all behind me with the saxophones.
That's right.
Mia
Yeah, okay.
and
Now I get
5
it.
saxophones. That's a concept album.
No, because they're fun-loving. They're cool. They're cool. I'm not a very cool person, so I admire people that are cool, and that's what I'm going with.
Oh, thanks, Pete.
No worries, mate. It's
Okay, and then last pick for Adam.
All right, well, I'm actually surprised this one hasn't been said yet, and I think it gets extra points because they're identical twins. I'm going to stick with the music theme, the Veronicas. Has this not been said? I was privileged enough to see them live at the end of last year, and they are still on the top of their game. Excellent.
How many death circles were in the Veronica's set?
An unbelievable amount.
For
I
people that don't
actually-
know, what is a death circle?
It's just kind of, so you're in the big mosh, you're all chucked in there. This is a music festival. And then all of a sudden, like a whole group of you like spread out into a big circle. And then kind of like at key moments of the song, you all run in and punch each other as hard as you can. And it's fun.
Yeah, it sounds fun. Can I ask,
sounds like my favourite way to spend a day.
is there a thing with your age group, Adam and Mia, to kind of ironically, or maybe not ironically, be massive fans of the Veronicas? Because it feels like there's a lot
I
of
don't think it's
Veronica
ironic
love.
at all. I really like them.
Untouched is a banger and always will be. Like,
just
there's
good.
no two ways about it.
What about you,
Pretend
Mia?
you don't.
What about you, Mia?
Well, and also they're so versatile. Like they perform untouched in like heavy metal style as well.
Yeah.
In all the ways, and
They did it at a death metal concert.
So they're opera. They're doing everything. It's not ironic, not at all.
Did they get kicked off a plane recently?
Yeah.
What did they do?
Fun. Oh, I don't know what they did.
Just rock and roll.
Yeah, they're just standing up for themselves and their fame. They know what they deserve.
Alrighty, the Veronicas.
All right, my last pick. I'm going to go two of my favorite people. They're no longer on Twitter, but when they were, it was the golden age for the website, the Krasenstein brothers.
Oh, no.
No two people have ever made me laugh without knowing anything about why they're so funny. These were two people that would just, their job was to reply to Donald Trump's tweets. And then 500 people would just dunk all over them and call them names, and they would get really offended. And then they started a podcast where they just ran through the insults that people sent them and just read them out and didn't respond to them, except just to go, that's mean. I miss them every day. I'm hoping that Trump's executive order somehow brings back the Krasenstein brothers because I need them back in my life. So the Krasenstein brothers, they're my final pick.
Who was it that retweeted them the other day?
They're off Twitter. They're banned.
Not retweeted them. It was that woman from Will and Grace.
Oh, yeah. Deborah Messing.
She retweeted tweeted one of their articles or something about Tara Reid.
Yes.
Story
Pete, finding a way to bring that story back into the end of the quiz. Let's just navigate around this and just say, all right, that is it for the draft. And thank you to Adam and Mia. A lot of fun. And we'll see everyone next week.